Comics have always touched on political and social issues. Captain America punched Hitler in 1941, the X-Men have long been seen as metaphors for civil rights and minority struggles, and the Green Lantern and Green Arrow series tackled racism and drug abuse in the 1970s. But somehow, in recent decades, Marvel and DC Comics' handling of these topics have been widely criticized.
You've got to do better, Senator.
In my opinion, some of these criticisms are valid, and other criticisms are completely ridiculous. To me, this begs the question, has pressures from the recent political climate caused Marvel and DC Comics to fumble their handling of social issues in their stories? Or did Marvel and DC Comics fail to understand the social issues new generations are facing? And was it all because of wokeism? In this video, I'm going to be like Tony Soprano in therapy, but instead of bitching about my mom, I'm going to be bitching about how Marvel and DC Comics have been fumbling controversial topics these past couple decades. But before we move on, please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics. You don't want to miss out on awesome content. But first, a word from our sponsor, which just so happens to be myself. My indie graphic novel is officially available on Amazon. The link can be found in the description below. If you're not sure about buying, that's totally fair. That's why I'm offering a free digital copy of the first issue of Echoes of the Triumphant. All you have to do is sign up for my email list. The link can also be found in the description. Now back to the topic at hand. Now, I'll be fair. Not all comic book series have been destroyed by wokeism these past couple years. Chip Zdarsky killed it with his Daredevil series, Joshua Williamson did an amazing job with Green Arrow and Superman, Ryan North's Fantastic Four series is a breath of fresh air, and the X-Men's Krakoa era is absolutely amazing. So don't get me wrong, wokeism has not completely destroyed comics. However, I do think that key aspects of wokeism has destroyed a number of Marvel and DC Comics characters and series. More specifically, it's the tokenism that's killing the comic book industry. Tokenism is when creatives include people from underrepresented groups in a superficial way just to appear inclusive without genuinely supporting diversity or giving these individuals meaningful roles. DC tokenized Tim Drake by turning him into a bisexual man with no depth that just gets his sexuality pushed to the forefront of his character. Instead of giving him awesome character development like they did in the past, DC Comics decided to make him bisexual one day and pair him up with a guy named Bernard, who doesn't really help Tim grow as an individual. In the past, Tim proved that his detective skills were almost as great, if not better, than Batman's. And he was so capable that he flied solo as Red Robin, and he gained Ra's al Ghul's respect as he called Tim Detective, a title that he only refers to Batman as. But now, Tim's pretty much just being used to meet a diversity and inclusion quota. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with making Tim Drake a bisexual man. It's just that ever since he became a bisexual man, he never got any great character development, which unfortunately makes Tim a tokenized character. Marvel did a similar thing with Iceman, turning him into a closeted gay man. Now, don't get me wrong, representation is fantastic. It's fantastic that queer people can see themselves in superhero stories. It's just that if you're going to make popular characters queer, at least give them some awesome storytelling treatment. It was pretty gross when Jean Grey forced Iceman out of the closet, so better writing for these characters is needed pronto.
Honey, where'd you go when you went out last night?
Just over to Tom's house, played some poker, had some brewskis, you know.
Really? Then would you mind explaining that?
At least they know how to touch a man! Oh, walk away.
And erasing a character's history as a straight guy just so Marvel and DC Comics can reach a diversity quota is just such a lame attempt at getting attention. And the same treatment should be given to other characters from other underrepresented communities. Sam Wilson took on the Captain America mantle, but he never got to show courage and stand up against the immoral collectivist tide like Steve Rogers did. Riri Williams became a new version of Iron Man, but she never got to make the sacrifice play and save the universe like Tony. Who knows? Maybe Marvel and DC Comics are laying the foundations for these characters so that they can have awesome character moments in the future. But as of right now, I haven't seen characters like Sam Wilson and Riri Williams get the same treatment as their predecessors. Now, I could go on and on about tokenized characters. Amadeus Cho becoming the Hulk was not memorable, Lin Lee becoming the new Iron Fist was so forgettable that I didn't even know he became Iron Fist until I started playing Marvel Rivals, and John Kent, Superman's son, got his bisexuality pushed to the forefront of his character and got wrapped up in real-life social issues without making any intelligent stances on them. DC Comics went hard on the pandering with John Kent, which I'll touch on later in the video. Marvel and DC Comics would have stuck the landing with these characters if they just gave them all their own unique sense of individuality. But sadly, they just don't want to do that for some reason. Take what happened with Sam Wilson as an example. I think his character would have worked really well if Marvel had a clear vision for the guy. Steve Rogers' Captain America represented the fight for freedom. In a world where there's so many groups, corporations, and bureaucracies trying to gain as much power and control over people, Steve Rogers' fight for each individual's freedom felt very powerful. I thought Sam Wilson's Captain America was going to address social inequality themes and address the problem of how government systems protect themselves and not the people that they're meant to serve. That would have been a really unique angle to take with the character. But unfortunately, it seems like Marvel just wants Sam to wear the Captain America costume without doing anything meaningful with the symbol, which is just a bummer. There's a plethora of derivative characters out there that got their own unique sense of individuality. Instead of becoming dark and brooding like his mentor, Dick Grayson grew up to be really optimistic and became one of the best healthy masculine role models in all of DC Comics. Kamala Khan was written as a human being that went through real emotional growth, as opposed to just being a Pakistani American that took up the Miss Marvel mantle. And as opposed to Miles Morales becoming Spider-Man to atone for his past mistakes, his storyline revolved around the theme of choice and its consequences. If you ask me, Marvel and DC Comics needs to make a real return to giving each of these characters a unique sense of individuality, as opposed to just including characters from underrepresented communities and not doing anything with them. Another thing that bothers me is the pandering. The best example that I can think of is what happened to the Punisher in recent years. In the real world, the Punisher's logo was appropriated by some controversial military, law enforcement, and vigilante groups. When some of these groups came under fire by the media and the masses, Marvel decided to distance themselves from these groups and redesign the Punisher's logo as well as his role in the Marvel Universe. The Punisher's logo was redesigned to look more stylized and horned to reflect his new role as the leader of the ninja cult, The Hand. This rebranding, of course, was meant to distance the character and Marvel from the symbol's misuse. Now, in my opinion, I don't think Marvel did the right thing here. For those of you who don't know, the Punisher is a symbol that's very important to members of the military and law enforcement. If you ever watched American Sniper, for instance, many members of the military were fans of the Punisher. Now, I'm not a part of the military or any police department, but something feels off about Marvel distancing themselves from these men and women, risking their lives so that we can live in a free and civil society. Like or hate the Punisher, but his character's storylines at least tried to pay homage and give as much respect to these brave individuals. Yes, there are individuals who use the Punisher symbol for bad reasons. There are people who try and get their way through force and vigilantism while wearing the symbol. But guess what? Those individuals should not be grouped together with the brave men and women who make sacrifices so that we can live in a free and civil society. The Punisher comics, movies, and Netflix shows did an amazing job of making these people feel seen and heard. The Punisher acknowledges the sacrifices these people make as well as the hard stuff that they have to go through. After touring, many members struggle to get the support that they need to deal with the trauma that they go through. There's also many who struggle to get employed after doing their military service. And there's probably so many other struggles that they go through. So the least Marvel could do is just have a backbone. When you acknowledge the struggles of some groups and not others, well, it's just a slippery slope is all I'm saying. Now, I might come under fire for saying this, but bear with me on this. I don't like how John Kent's character started protesting real-life social issues in the series. In my opinion, I think this was a pretty lame attempt that DC Comics made to try and win approval from people. Now, don't get me wrong, real-world issues like climate change are very important. It's just that there's a difference between talking about a problem and actually doing something about it. There's a difference between saying something morally virtuous and actually shaping reality in the image of your highest moral value.
Mrs. Griffin, what do you plan to do about crime in our city?
A lot.
If DC Comics donated to some causes that fight climate change, then I wouldn't mind them having John Kent protest as much. Look, maybe I'm going down a slippery slope here. Not every publisher has to be charitable. It's just that this moment gives me Kylie Jenner Pepsi commercial vibes. Companies like DC Comics need to walk the walk and not just talk the talk is all I'm saying. Now, I don't know if wokeism is to blame for this, but in my opinion, it needs to be addressed. There's been quite the lack of realism in comics these past couple years. Now, I get it, Marvel and DC Comics can get over the top and fantastical, but if there's nothing to ground the story, why should anyone care? How can anyone connect with these characters if there's nothing grounded about them? Marvel pretty much forgot about Tony Stark's addiction issues. Now, don't get me wrong, addicts can certainly recover. It's just that in the real world, addicts have a chronic condition that they have to deal with for the rest of their lives. They always have to fight the temptation to relapse again. So I think grounding these characters as much as possible is the best course of action. There's been this trend also where pregnant superheroes go on adventures and engage in fights. Now, on one hand, these stories are very sci-fi and fantastical, so I can see some stories getting away with this. But at the same time, like, really? Is it really grounded for Mr. Fantastic to let his wife run around on dangerous missions while she's pregnant? I'll let you decide on that one. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I think that wokeism turned a lot of classic Marvel and DC Comics characters into tokenized characters. It caused both publishers to pander hard to their audiences and cave into public demands, and it caused them to deviate from more realistic storylines. But that's just my opinion. I hope that Marvel and DC Comics will course correct more in the future, because these classic characters deserve amazing storytelling treatment. But what do you think? Do you think wokeism destroyed comics? What do you think Marvel and DC Comics should do moving forward? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, thanks a million for watching. Please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics so that you won't miss out on our awesome content. Stay groovy.